Hey guys, Omar here, and Fuji just dropped a firmware update for the Fuji X-T20. And some of you have asked me to share my thoughts about it. First of all, if you don't know how to upgrade your firmware, I will link up, I don't know how you do it, but I'll link up a little card up here on how to do it. Now my video is kind of like a funny parody video on how to upgrade, but you can actually use it to update your firmware if you ignore all the nonsense. This is version 2.0, and it's Friday the 13th of April 2018. Okay, so I'll go through the features really quickly, and then those of you that want to see a little bit more detail, I'll show you detail. So here are my favorite features that they added with the firmware 2.0. Thank you, Fuji. Okay, the first feature they added, which was awesome, is the Q menu is now touchable. This is a great feature. I'll show you in more detail, but that's my favorite. Second feature they added is your focus point can go even smaller for more detail. Third feature they added, which I love, is the display icons and little graphic interface can now be put to large. So if you're losing your eyesight like me, in the EVF and the back of the camera, you can actually have very large display. I like that. Next, didn't get to test, but autofocus continuous tracking is said to have been doubled, which is incredible because it was pretty good already. Next one, which I never even heard of, is a feature from the Fuji X-E3. It's called, let me get this right, flicking.
Talk! Did you just flick me?
Flick you. It says autofocus area can be moved in focus zoom. So you can actually, I tried it, it's pretty cool and I'll show you in a second. So flicking, they added, you can actually pinch out on playback and you can see your images, you can see more images, you know, in playback mode, which is really cool. And an RGB and blinky warning on playback, which is very useful. They also added something I needed a little bit more research on, flash high-speed sync, better compatibility with compatible flash systems. I know that with my Flashpoint Mini, if I put that on the Fuji X-T20, I can trigger the Flashpoint Explore 600, the Godox series of flashes in high-speed sync. So it definitely, you can do high-speed sync on the Fuji X-T20. Those are the features really quickly. You can stop watching now if you want to, but I will show you them in a little bit more detail, so let's go. All right, let's start with the coolest feature, guys. It's the Q menu. If you hit the Q menu now, you can actually change everything with a touch. So we asked for that and we wanted that when this Fuji X-T20 first came out. So much quicker than using the D-pad. If you want to go from one corner to the other, all you have to do is touch now. I've noticed that if you touch and you pick a new option, it goes back to this, but sometimes when you touch, it just stays hovered there. Let's just say we want 1.1. If you half hold the shutter, you'll be at 1.1. You don't have to hit OK or confirm. By the way, it seems like you can double click too. If you double click one of the options, film simulation, classic chrome, double click the little, that seems to happen sometimes. Or is it that I'm choosing outside? Let's see. If I hit S, yeah, so that's quicker than hitting the shutter, is you can pick an option and then just touch outside of the, and that's pretty cool. So you touch and then go somewhere else. Oh, I want my sharpness to be +2, just touch somewhere else and you already have your +2. So that's kind of cool. It's like instead of going to the OK or hitting the shutter, nice, I like that. Next, these humongous icons, you can actually customize. You can actually change the, I don't know why you would want that. I mean, again, we get used to what's given to us, but you can switch the location of these little information icons. I don't think I'm gonna do that, but that's very cool they gave us that option. You just go to screen setup and we have new options now at the end here. First, let's talk about large versus small. In the EVF, you could totally still have, you can make the icon larger. I think I'll keep that on. Let's turn off here the menu on the front. When you have it off and you have our typical small everything, you actually get more information. Like if you're using AF, MF on, or the DR100, some of these disappear when you're using the large. Okay, so I really honestly haven't noticed if this size has gotten even smaller. I guess it has. They said this size maybe is smaller. I'm not sure, but maybe it was here and now it's this. But you can if you have this firmware update, you can move your focus point around. If you find your little focus point is off to the side, just hit the display back button. This weird flicking thing. So there's like you can zoom in. This is my zoom in button. Remember, you can customize all your buttons, but for you, it's probably default push the scroll wheel here. There's now a flicking option, flicking they call it, which I guess lets you move around instead of using the D-pad, I guess. You know, it's so funny. We get these new features and I don't remember what the old features are. Let's zoom in a lot. And I guess you can flick around, like I guess it's to jump quicker. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, on playback, if you hit the display back a couple of times, you get an RGB playback, and also if you're overexposed, double click. If you're overexposed, you get kind of like a blinky warning, which is cool. Another playback feature is this whole pinch. You know, if you pinch smaller, let me make sure. I'm gonna pinch. If you pinch now twice, you get a smaller array. Just make sure that you have the information at the bottom. If you're kind of in display back nothing, let's see if it works. Yeah, it works in display back nothing, but if you're in RGB, it doesn't work in RGB. So don't try to pinch in RGB. And also if you're in favorites, you cannot pinch to get to that. So that's a little interesting. But once you have your information at the bottom, pinch, baby, pinch. The other thing you can do, which is really cool, is you can add icons. So you can actually go to, right now I'm in movie mode, but if you go to screen setup, you can actually go to, where is it? The large indicators display setting. And it actually lets you go through and actually change all these little guys, and it gave one custom one. But if you want to sit there and change all of those, now you can. But I don't think I'm really going to do that. But I like that it tells me I'm in movie mode, because that's always a problem I have, is I'm about to shoot a photograph and I don't look at my little dial up there. Something else I noticed is if I'm in, I don't know if this was the same before, maybe you guys can let me know, but I realize if I'm in full auto mode, so I just switched the switch to full auto, which I use there. You can see it now, which is very cool, instead of the tiny little full auto we used to get. But if I go to 4K, like I'm going to shoot 4K here. Let's do that. Are we in 4K? No, sorry. 4K, right? I noticed that when I'm full auto, I actually have access to all the film simulations, okay? If I'm shooting 4K, look how big they are, my gosh, monstrous. But if I'm not shooting 4K, here we go, we're gonna switch this to good old 1080p. There we go, 30 frames a second. And so now when I try to change the film simulations, you only have 3, and one of them is sepia. So I don't really understand that. That's kind of weird, but we don't have access to the full film simulations in full auto, which I use all the time for video. But in 4K we do. Now, you'd think that would sound like something cool, but in 4K you lose face detection, which I mentioned 1,000 times. So you see, you lose face detection there. And so if you're vlogging in sepia, you're not going to be able to, grab your face. The other thing we didn't inherit from the XE3 is the swipeable menus, because they got rid of this D-pad on the E3, so you can't swipe up, down to bring up menus, and that's okay. We don't really need that. So if you haven't updated your firmware to 2.0, do it. It's got some great features, especially that Q menu touch. If anything, that's the one that really makes a change. Everything can switch really quickly. Man, just keep them coming. Keep them coming.